right, Gerardo Urias here again for another conversation. Glad to have you here, man. We finally made this happen, which is probably the perfect timing
Finally,
either way, right? So
divinely coordinated, divinely coordinated.
exactly. Um, just for the listener, if you didn't know, we have another conversation, our first conversation with Gerardo on a prior episode, where we talked to his journey up until his book and through his book. And now he's on the continuous journey, but he has a few adventures that he kind of that I wanted to share with the listener, and that Gerardo obviously wants to share with everybody as well. So a few months ago, I don't remember when it was. You can probably tell me that as far as the ayahuasca, you hit me up and told me you were going to do your first ayahuasca ceremony, and so we talked about it, and I was like, well, let's record an episode right after that. And then just things happened and we weren't able to do it. So I wanted to kind of rewind to how that ceremony came about, what made you want to do it, uh, and the details of that ceremony. So how did ayahuasca pop up during that time?
Yeah, so that was back in May. It was actually May 6th that it was originally scheduled for. And how ayahuasca found me is such a story in itself. So I will be telling stories here because over the past few months, ayahuasca has like embedded itself in my life and is guiding me in ways that are beyond comprehension. Absolutely wild. So a little backstory about ayahuasca. I've been on this plant medicine journey now for 5 years. The bulk of that with mushrooms, of course, which saved my life and led to the writing of the book, Taking Back My Mind. And after a few years of that, probably like 2 years ago, I started really getting interested in ayahuasca. I'd heard a lot about it. A lot of my friends have told me that it was a really powerful experience and recommended it. Right? And so I was searching it out. I was traveling at the time back and forth between Mexico and San Diego, like I always do. And I was looking for ayahuasca, looking for ceremonies, but I couldn't really find any. It wasn't the right time. It just kept evading me, for about 2 years. I would find a ceremony happening near me. I was down in Baja Sur for a time a while ago, a few years ago, and there's a lot of ayahuasca ceremonies happening down there, but it just didn't work out. And so after 2 years of searching, I gave up. I figured, well, it'll find me when it finds me, when the right time, which is how it works. The mushroom found me on December 22nd, 2017. That's when that life-saving day happened. So that's how plant medicine works. It finds you when you are in the right place for it, right? So I kind of shelved it, and I figured it'll find me when it finds me. So rewind back to May a few months ago, and I received a message from a friend, but it's somebody who came to one of my workshops about a year prior, one of my breathwork workshops in San Diego. And that's the only time I'd actually ever met her. So she's a friend, but I really only met her once at my workshop. And then I received a random message from her that there was an ayahuasca ceremony happening near me down in San Diego. And I thought, oh, wow, okay, well, ayahuasca found me. Now, the crazy thing about this is when I gave up searching for the ayahuasca experience, I figured that it had to do something with my mother. Ayahuasca is the grandmother of all medicines, of female energy. And I just had a feeling deep down inside that I had to do something with my mother. My mother's 86 years old. She's aging. She's towards the end of her life. And I always figured it would help me process the end of her life in some way. I really trusted that deep down. And so when I received this random message, I thought, wow, okay, that's interesting. During this time, over the last year, really over the last 5 years, but especially over the last 2 years and then the last year, there's some issues in my family because of my path in plant medicine, and it's a long, complicated story. But my mother's been involved in some of these issues that I have needed to resolve. So I got that feeling that, oh, okay, so ayahuasca found me to help resolve what's going on here. And that's how it found me. during this during this kind of turmoil of the time, I hadn't spoken to my mother in a little while because of some family politics and things that are kind of messy. I had a difficult conversation with her a few days before I got this message, and wasn't a good conversation. There's a lot of strife, a lot of turmoil having to do with differences of opinion in our family regarding her. And so I was left with this feeling that I really had to resolve. And the ayahuasca ceremony was scheduled for May 6th. And my intention going into this ayahuasca ceremony was to visit this realm and see what I had to do in regards to my mother. I really thought I was going to have to say goodbye to her during the ceremony, a very difficult thing to do, of course. I have had to slowly separate myself from my family over the last 5 years, methodically, to take care of myself and my mental health, because it really affects my mental health. And so that conversation happened, and that's how I went into it. Well, it turns out I got a message a few days later from the same friend that the ayahuasca ceremony was postponed. Right. And so I figured I was really, really ready to go in and just feel whatever I had to feel. So the ceremony got pushed back a week to May 13th. So that gave me an extra week to prepare and to go through what I was going to go through. May 10th is Mexican Mother's Day. On Mexican Mother's Day, I decided, okay, I'm going to give this another shot. And I called my mother again. And in my mindset, every conversation I have with my mother, in my mindset, it could be the last one. She's 86 years old. As you know from reading my book, Stoic philosophy is a big part of my life. I always prepare myself for this being the last conversation, especially with her, because you never know what's going to happen, right? So I called her on May 10th, on Mexican Mother's Day, and we had the opposite conversation. We had a wonderful conversation, but something had changed in her approach to how we talked about my life and about my work and what we're doing. It seemed like she had a real understanding for the first time about what I do. And I have a feeling that one of my cousins probably reached out to her and informed her of some trauma that I went through in my early youth, which is the main catalyst on the division of the family. And during our conversation, I don't even know how to describe it, but it was kind of out of the blue and out of nowhere. She said in one sentence what I pretty much have been working for these 5 years, and all I ever needed to hear from her. And those words were, "Perdóname, mijo, no sabía lo que estaba haciendo en esos días," which means, "Forgive me, son. I didn't have the knowledge to know what I was doing in those days." I felt during those words were being spoken from God. It felt like God was speaking to me through her. Her voice changed. There was an understanding, and I mean, it was out of this world. And this peace entered my heart that I finally got through to her with what I've been talking about for 5 years, right? And it was the most liberating feeling, the most liberating conversation I could have possibly had with her. So we talked some more, wrapped it up. I told her I loved her and I hope I see her again soon. And we left it at that. 3 days later, on May 13th, I had the ceremony. The ceremony went in a different direction, which we'll go into in a bit here. But what I realized, and I knew it right then and there, and I realized this during the IS ceremony 3 days later, that the entire reason ayahuasca found me was so I could hear those words 3 days prior to the ceremony itself, which blew my mind if you understand how these things work. So that's kind of a long story on how it found me, but that was probably the most profound moment of my life, not even having to do with the ceremony or anything. So I'll stop right there and let you dig into that.
No, yeah, that's pretty powerful, man. You know, and as somebody who's not involved in plant medicine might not even be able to understand what you just said,
Right. Right.
that the whole reason you got called to the ayahuasca was for the healing of that, for that situation to go down with your mother, you
Right.
know, and I'm sure that prepared you for your ceremony as far as your mindset, right? Because you're going in with this huge like shift in your heart and in your mind, with your mother kind of just creating this peace by understanding you and apologizing for her lack of awareness of what you had been doing, or whatever it may be, whatever we need to hear from our parents. You heard it, and then you were
Right.
able to enter into this ayahuasca ceremony with that mindset, which can create a whole different experience if you go into it with a good mindset and with a peaceful heart, than as opposed to going into it with the tumultuous mind and
Yes.
and your heart's not in a good place. Then you're going to experience a different experience.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, how do you think that affected you, man? I know I've mentioned it before when I and it all happens for a reason. If you have to go into it and have a bad experience, I mean, that's what you need at that time.
Right.
And I remember when I went right before I planned this big trip to Peru, and I'm doing everything I can to get my mindset right and have everything in the right place. And, like a couple days before I leave is when my wife at the time, we were already separated, but she decides to tell me, when you come back, I'm going to be moved out. Me and your daughters aren't going to be here. This is right before I leave to Peru. This huge thing she drops on me. I've been raising these kids all these are my babies. And you
Right.
got to tell me this like right before I go to this solo trip to the Amazon to do ayahuasca. So that's
Right.
all that was on my mind that whole time. But it was what I needed to hear before I went, because it got me through it. I had to
Right.
go through this really hard ayahuasca trip that forced me to let go of that situation. If she
Right.
wouldn't have dropped that on me, I wouldn't have had the bad trip, and I wouldn't have learned the lesson. And I see that
Exactly.
it's crazy how that works, right?
Right.
It's all connected, man. So how did that affect your just tell me about the trip itself, and
Yeah.
how you think that may have played into it, but just the story of the experience, how that went.
Yeah. 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 It was a wild experience. Um, that obviously really rectified things in my mind with the relationship with me and my mother. So that was a very soothing feeling. And it just felt like the universe put everything back on track. I was going into it with a very tumultuous mind and sort of lost and not knowing what to do, just hoping to get an answer. So this really cleared that energy up, and really filled me with hope, that I finally broke through to her with the main point that I've been trying to make. So with that cleared, I went in with an open mind and really I did not have any expectations. And I went in to learn whatever I had to learn, to ask Mama Aya to clear my vision, just to show me what's obscuring my vision, and shine light on the path forward for this very difficult time. This is a very, very difficult time for me and my family. It's a lot of dark stuff. And so I was able to go in with an open mind. The ceremony was in Tijuana, so I just crossed the border. So it was
Oh,
pretty convenient. Because in Mexico, of course, DMT is not a scheduled substance. So that's why there are multiple ceremonies in Mexico. So and it's a shaman that I've worked with before. That's where I first did bufo for the first time. So a very, very beautiful place. Ceremony started out in a very beautiful fashion with a very knowledgeable ayahuasquero from the Shipibo lineage, and started with 30 minutes of prayer and calling in the ancestors and protecting the room, protecting the area, cleansing with copal. We did a round of hape to ground our body, to really settle the mind. And so it's a beautiful transition into ceremony. After the opening ceremony, of course, they passed around the ayahuasca and we drank it, and then we laid down. It hit me pretty quick. It hit me within probably about 30 minutes or so. I was laying down and I felt okay. I felt it come on. Because of bufo, because of my breathwork practice, I'm very familiar with the feeling of DMT. And so I felt that DMT start to invade my body, and just take me over. And so I rode that out for a bit, and another half hour, 45 minutes went through, and then she asked for another round. Everybody who wanted another round took another round. and I knew that was going to really kick it in, you know. So I took that second shot, laid back down, and then it really started intensifying, you know, really started intensifying. And where I was expecting to go into the realm of the mother wound and the relationship with my mother and that realm, it didn't go there at all, actually. It went to other family members. And over the next probably 3 hours or so, I was filled with a lot of rage, actually, a lot of rage and I have this warrior in me that's been a part of me throughout this journey, and it emerges, and it always has to do with family issues, and it's a part of me. You know, we all have that dark side. We all have that demon that we battle with our whole lives, and you know, that demon has protected me a lot of times too. The ego, you know, so it's a fine balance with how you deal with these things. But I felt that warrior clearly take over my body completely and put all my focus on one brother, who has been harassing me a lot, and I've had to cut him off multiple times, and it was getting really ugly, you know. So I had this feeling that I needed to keep him away from me, and I kept repeating in my head, "Just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. Just leave me alone." And I went like on an automatic pilot where that's all I said, laying down for about an hour, and then I sat up, and I was in a absolute trance. There was a fire in the middle of the room, very beautiful setting, and I was just in this trance where nobody could, people were walking right in front of me, and I wouldn't budge at all. Nobody could distract me whatsoever from the zone that I was in. And I was just repeating, "Leave me alone, just leave me alone, just leave me alone." And I did not purge. So that was my first time doing ayahuasca, right? Purging is very common. I didn't feel nauseous at all. I didn't feel the necessity to purge anything at all. It was extremely strong, however. But I felt that anger and that rage in me, you know, and so I was just trying to deal with that, close my eyes, and it was probably about 3 hours went by, and I was sitting in lotus position in a trance. Then my stomach started to get really upset, and I finally asked for help. I really didn't want to move. I was also comfortable. There was a bit of euphoria, so I didn't want to move, and I really pushed it, you know, until I really had to go to the bathroom. And then finally, I raised my hand for help, and it was pretty hard to navigate. And at that point, the facilitators helped me over to the bathroom, and I let out a whole lot of purging down the other end, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot,
Yeah.
a lot,
Mm-hmm.
a lot. And like, oh man, okay, that felt good. Then they helped me back, and I laid down. And then about 10 minutes later, again, I had to go. I went probably about 4 times within an hour, hour and a half, where I was just purging, you know. And I had fasted all day, so I didn't know where all this food was coming from. Yeah, and even before that, I was doing the dieta, so you know, my diet was pretty clean. So I didn't know where all this was coming from, but it was coming from somewhere. So after about the fourth time, I finally made it back to my mat. I laid down, and then it started shifting to a feeling of euphoria, you know, and then it started shifting to just a feeling of love, absolute bliss, love, euphoria. That is so beyond words. And if you've experienced that on ayahuasca, I'm sure you can relate. It's the oneness with everything. It's the absolute understanding of the perfection of all of existence. It is understanding clearly that we are here for a reason, that we are souls living in this human body. That entire transcendent experience, you know, is what I went into right after that. And that continued for another, I mean, I lost track of time, of course, but that went on for a while. And in the midst of this euphoric feeling of love, I decided to try and move around, you know. So I got up on my knees and my hands and just was looking around the room at all of these skeletons that they had hanging from the walls and all of these trippy things. And then I heard off in the corner, I heard some scurrying, an animal sounded like. And I looked up towards the corner of the room, and there was a giant spider. I mean, giant, like this big.
Jesus.
Crawling from the roof down the wall and towards the other side of the room. But it was a like a see-through spider. It was translucent, right? And I knew it wasn't a real spider, but I clearly saw the shape of a spider and just moving down. And then I looked over in the room, and it disappeared. And I was focusing on that side of the room, and then I heard swooshing, and I heard whispers, and I heard voices, and I felt very clearly beings, entities, spirits, something up in that corner of the room there where the spider was. And I was thinking, those have to be spirits. They have to be. Is it my dad? Because my dad passed away in 2017. Is it my dad? Is it my ancestors? What is that? And I looked around the room. Everybody is in their own journey, in their own trip. And so I just sat there looking for a while, and I didn't see anything after that. Then I just laid back down, and then I wrote out the rest of it, which was just a lot of intensity. The rest of the journey was pure love and bliss and joy, and that kind of rounded out the journey. The music, of course, was just on point, evoking every single emotion that I needed to feel. And that went on for hours and hours. And then we got to and people are purging, there's other things going on in the room. Meanwhile, everybody else did purge, by the way. And some people were laughing and crying and all kinds of emotions in the room, but I was just in my own trance, in my own trip. And so come 3-4 in the morning or so, they kind of toned it down, and they put some slower music to kind of settle us down. And then everybody lay down and went to sleep. I couldn't really sleep. We just kind of laid down and wrote it out, So that was the end of the journey, and then the next morning came, and the facilitators came back up to the room and started our closing integration session, right? So in our closing integration session, we talked about all these things, and the facilitators, they take a little bit of ayahuasca themselves to be in that energetic realm, right? Down in the Amazon, a lot of times the ayahuasqueros will take the ayahuasca, take the brew, and the participants won't. It's actually a tool for the shamans to get into the spirit realm to see what's going on, to heal the participant. So it's that's very traditional how it's done. And so they told me the next day that when I was in that trance, and I was just looking at the fire in that trance, during when I was feeling that rage and that anger towards my brother, they said that they looked at me and there was a fire in my gut, that there was a flame right here, just flaming up, and that I had no pupils, and my eyes were all white, and I was like that for hours. And then and then that's when I went to purge and did all that. And so what I putting two and two together, and then talking about this, what I got from that is that there was so much rage and anger regarding these issues, and it was like metabolizing in my gut. And I've had both shamans that I work with here in Oaxaca tell me that I have a lot of anger in my gut, So all these things, all these dots connecting. And then when I purged, when I went to the bathroom 4 times, it released it, and then entered this euphoria, And so that's like observations they made of me going through that, right?
Yeah.
And they also said there were some other things that happened. They said that at one point that there was a river flowing through the room, like water, and only they saw it because everybody else was in their own journey. That they said there was a river flowing through the room, through us, and that persisted for a bit. And one of the other participants said that she heard and felt a lot of people, a lot of spirits, a lot of some sort of entities, but she was scared to look. She had her back turned. She had her eyes closed. She didn't want to look. She didn't want to look at all. And then finally she gathered the courage, and she turned towards us to see what all these spirits were. And then she said there was nobody in the room at all, not even us, which is strange because we never left the room, And so there was that. And then, a lot of other spirits were seen by the other people. But those were the main events that really affected me and my journey, and then how I integrated that afterwards. The spider has relevance too. We could talk about that in a bit. But that was, that was my journey in a nutshell.
Okay. Yeah. I'd like to hear we'll get into that, the kind of the relevance and integration of all these things. You mentioned, this is a minor point, but you mentioned how isn't it amazing how the music that they sing kind of leads the journey, right? Like I
Oh,
don't know how it's perfectly it's I guess it's thousands of years of like fine tuning or something, but they perfectly
right,
lead the journey with this music, all the way to the intense portions, and you feel like it's the music that they're singing is part of your journey, and it's kind of like a road that's taking you to these
right.
different portions. It gets super intense, the music gets intense, and um yeah, that was anytime I hear that music now, like I'll try to find it sometime just to hear like the Icaros, right? Yeah,
Right, Icaros, yeah,
Icaros, yeah,
yeah.
and just listen to those, and it brings me right back to the Amazon, because
Oh, yeah,
those songs you don't hear anywhere else on
right,
earth,
right,
they're
right, right,
powerful.
right, right.
So
Oh,
yeah,
it's wild. Yeah. Before we wrap this up, I'm gonna have to tell you about the recent ayahuasca journey that I just had. So I had another one that popped up miraculously again, found me again. So it's actually been a series of healing process from ayahuasca from when it found me on May 6th.
Hmm.
And this is kind of a continuation. And the song, I will have to tell you, so we'll touch on that a bit later, but it is miraculous, the combination of the song and the healing that I just experienced. Maybe we'll end with that. You'll be blown away.
Okay, the song, yeah, or the story of the song.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay, I thought you were gonna sing a Icaro for us.
No, no, no. I can do a
you
lot of things, but that's not one of
You know what was crazy
them.
about it too was I don't it sounded I don't want to go too deep into the Icaros, but they're singing in Spanish, but it was very like they were making their voices into like a weird like it almost sounded like an alien song. You know what I mean? It sounded like the way they were. I never heard anyone sing like this
Right.
before. It wasn't like they were singing a normal Spanish song. It was like really like a real like nasally, like high pitch
Hmm.
voice, and the Spanish they were saying was not very familiar to me.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
was just and maybe it was because I was tripping on ayahuasca, but I was like, man, this sounds like some otherworldly type
Yeah,
folk
yeah,
songs. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. They know, that's how it works. It's so interesting. I mean, music itself is so healing. They've done so much recent research on how healing music is in itself, the vibration of music, and how it will sync into rhythm. It'll alter your heart rhythm. So the music you're listening to will actually, affect the way that your heart is beating and the overall emotional tone in your body. So sad music, of course, creates a sad emotion in your body. So I mean, just music alone is absolutely super healing in the physiological processes that it sparks. Combine that with ayahuasca, I mean, it's no wonder.
Yeah, and then the intense, the way that they bring it up, and the drums are playing, and they're whistling, and they're dum da dum da and oh fuck. But once they started taking it down, it was crazy because the trip started going down. I'm like, are they leading my trip
Exactly.
with the music? What's happening here? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, so anyhow, you had your experience, and then you started doing your integration, and how does that work, and how has that worked for you so far? Because it hasn't been that long of a time,
No,
right?
no, no, it hasn't. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did the integration. So right after that, it was a lot of knowledge in my body. There was a lot of downloads, a lot of realizations. Um, and I had to take a few days to process it and figure out what it all meant. Um, I had arranged a phone call with my friend Susan Gunner, who you were on her
Yeah, yeah.
podcast.
Mhm.
Yeah, she's kind of my go-to when it comes to I need a therapist's advice or a second opinion on things.
Yeah.
Um, and so I had arranged a call with her to talk about the ayahuasca journey. And so we talked for a bit, and I went into a little more in depth. She knows more of my family stuff. Um, and she helped me a lot. She helped me integrate. It was pretty clear the rage and anger obviously stems from trauma and then family dynamics and all that. So that's pretty easy for me to understand as far as that part of the journey. But when I told her about the spider, um, it all made a lot of sense. What is happening right now with my family is there's these terms called trauma entanglements and trauma bonds, and they are the history of trauma that a family goes through, and all of that creates the individual identities of family members and how they view each other and how the entire dynamic plays out, right? And it is a bond because it bonds you to these narratives, bonds you to these storylines. You have these different storylines and different family members, and it creates the narratives that it is hard to escape. It's hard to escape these narratives in family a lot of times. Because I am on this journey of sort of ascending into higher realms of dynamics and higher levels of consciousness, really. If you break it down, that's what it is, expansion of consciousness. So you kind of have an overview effect, and so you gain a different vantage point, so when it doesn't jive, when that narrative starts to change, when the narrative doesn't jive with the other narratives, then there's conflict, there's issues. Because, and this is one very important point that I have realized over these last few months, is that who you are is infinite in the perception of everybody around you. How everybody sees you is not necessarily you. It is the narrative they're creating of you, their observation of you, and then you subconsciously create the storyline of who that person is, And so I have no idea who I really am in the eyes of, one brother. It's completely different in the eyes of this brother, because these are two different vantage points, two different narratives that have built the identity that is me. But that's not who I actually am. Even myself, even my own narrative about myself, I don't know, because I am such a multifaceted, complex being. I'm doing IFS work now. I got certified in internal family systems, so I'm providing therapy, IFS therapy for clients. IFS is, it's amazing. It's really, I'm really stepping up my game as far as the therapeutic side of things, and it's tremendously helping me understand my own complexity, right? And the premise of IFS, internal family systems, right? Logically, internal family systems suggest that we have multiple sub-personalities. We tend to think that we are one identity, one person, that I am Gerardo Urias. Gerardo Urias is made up of multiple, if not infinite, sub-personalities that have been mapped out by Richard Schwartz, who developed internal family systems. And across 40, 50,000 clients that he did research on, he saw commonalities in the systems, the architecture of the psyche across all human beings. And the general ones are called protectors and firefighters, and they protect the deeper parts of ourselves that are called exiles. Exiles are pretty much what is pretty much the identity that we create when trauma happens. And this is all in childhood, of course, because everybody has suffered trauma. There's nobody in the world who has not suffered trauma. Trauma simply means a situation where your nervous system got stuck and you felt danger of some sort. When you're born, that's the very first trauma, being born. When you're in utero, you're literally physically attached to the mother, and then you're born and you're separated. That, hence attachment theory, right? That's the first trauma. So when you're growing up as a child, you have a lot of different situations that spark this fight or flight response. At first, it's you need to survive, you need food, all that. So then those traumatic moments wrap themselves around this specific incident and essentially freezes your nervous system in that moment in time. And then you create a little sub-personality of that moment in time when that trauma happened, and that becomes known as an exile. That becomes a part of me who was, suffered some sort of adverse situation, some sort of negative emotional reaction in me. And then that becomes a small piece of my identity in my nervous system. And then the nervous system remembers that. And then that gets buried into your subconscious. And then that becomes an exile. So then these things manifest as you grow up and you learn language, and then you start in adolescence, you start making friends and having relationships, and they manifest in dysfunctions in how you relate with other people. So the point of all that is we don't even know ourselves, but my identity is so complex, it's hard for me to know myself completely, that it's impossible to know somebody else exactly how they are. And so I don't know if that all makes sense, but it's pretty much infinite narratives that are trying to coexist. And
Yes.
family gets entangled in the trauma entanglement, right? When somebody tries to leave that entanglement or starts to change the narrative and doesn't jive, as I mentioned before, then there's issues. That's essentially what's happening in my family right now. It's been happening for 5 years, and it's really ugly. I'm not gonna lie, it's really ugly. And so that it it gave me an overview of all that is happening. And so when I was telling all of this to Susan, she said, "The spider. Why do you think you saw the spider?" And I was like, "Oh my God, trauma entanglements." It all came so clear. It's like it was a web. It's a big web. It's a family web, and I have escaped it, but they keep trying to pull me in. They keep trying to pull me in. And so Susan gave me a little mini education on how all this works in intergenerational trauma, and how we have templates. We have these psychic templates in our DNA that's been carried forward throughout humanity, thousands of years in my lineage, my Mexican lineage. And this family template on how the families are supposed to stick together as a tribe, because for most of humanity, it was very important to stick together as a tribe. You leave the tribe, you face death. You're not going to make it very far on your own. So it's this highly intelligent, highly insidious templates that are in our DNA, and that's what manifests every generation. That's why it is so difficult for me to be in the position I am now, because I'm I'm trying to fight against thousands of years of biology, of DNA, of intergenerational trauma that is there for a reason, for survival, as it has been necessary. And so the ayahuasca showed me visually what was happening, the web. So it gave me that grand understanding of what's happening, and to accept that that's what's happening, to embrace that it's not going to be easy. That again, throughout history, if somebody leaves the tribe, they usually die one way or another, either in nature or the tribe themselves. They kill you pretty much. This is like real dark, real harsh, real stuff that's happened in indigenous cultures. So it allowed me to have more compassion for myself, and not kind of be so hard on myself and get so down about these things. Because to be honest, since we last spoke, I've been engulfed in probably the most darkness I have ever been engulfed in my life. This has been the most challenging time of my life, which is why I'm here in Oaxaca. Yeah. You had a question?
Oh, no. I was listening.
Yeah.
I was listening. Yeah. So you're talking about since you did the ayahuasca, or that it's been the most challenging time of your life, or are you just
since that moment?
Since that moment. Why do you think that is?
Because it's the culmination of the entire separation from my family. It's been a slow methodical separation for about 4 years now. And this issue with my mom was the tipping point. It was the peak, the culmination of all of it. And it's all since that moment, since I had that conversation with her, and since I had the ayahuasca experience where I saw clearly and felt and know intellectually what's happening, this is really serious stuff. So the realness of it is deeper than it's ever been. And it's since that moment and that awakening and realization to what's going on that it's been darkness.
So has that changed? Did that change anything about the relationship with your mom?
Yeah, I still haven't spoken with her. That's the last time I spoke with her, was when we did have that connection. And there is most of me is at peace. If that's our last conversation, I'm at peace with that. because there was an actual connection. The reason I haven't spoken with her goes into family politics, and it's really ugly. Um, but that's where it stands. That as of now, that was the last conversation I had with her, and we actually had a connection where she understood me for the first time ever in regard to these issues.
Okay. So you said this has been the darkest time of your life
Yeah,
recently. Do you
yeah,
think that is just because you were kind of uh, the issue was really illuminated during the ayahuasca and now you're understanding that what you have to do kind of, which is separate
yeah.
yourself completely? Is that why it's dark? Or
No,
what is making it dark for you right now?
no, it's more dark because the one the one brother that the ayahuasca warned me about, turned out to be true. I didn't reach out to him afterwards. I was going to, but I didn't, and I just kind of held off and let nature and the universe do its thing. And this brother ended up shortly after that, like 2 weeks after that, attacking me and trying to discredit me. And still is currently doing that. So brother turned on me in a pretty dark manner.
Mm,
And so there's like a big battle. I mean, now it's a real battle. I'm battling my family, and it's getting to where I may have to take legal action.
mm.
So it's like it's all real. It's all real now. Before it was ideas, but it's real now.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
So, it's getting to you said you may have to take legal action. Okay. Um, yeah,
yeah.
that's
Harassment,
defamation type of stuff.
defamation. Yeah, yeah. I sent my other brother, who's an attorney, and he and I are neutral as of now. But I sent him and my niece a letter that I was going to have to file a defamation lawsuit against my brother if he didn't stop
Oh yeah.
attacking me. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is, I don't know if you want to go into that at all, but is he attacking you amongst your family or trying
No,
to,
publicly on social media to all of our mutual friends.
oh,
Yeah, he's trying to destroy me. He even reached out to like my professional networks and sent this like 30-page manifesto on how the narrative, how horrible of a person I am my whole life, all these things that I didn't do, should
wow.
have done. Yeah, yeah, it's ugly. Like to my professional network, to people that I work with, to yeah, yeah, like way overboard.
Wow, man.
Yeah,
That's nuts.
yeah.
Ah, well, how do you think that this journey that you're on right now is going to assist you through that? You know what I mean? Like,
Yes, that's a good point.
yeah, because
I
you go ahead.
yeah. I was going to preface this whole conversation by stating that this is why I do plant medicine. Because if these things were going on and I didn't have the power of plant medicine to weather this storm, I don't know where I would be or what I would be doing. But I would not be sitting here with a smile on my face. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I
So,
see.
so
Yeah.
this last few months, and again, the universe brought me to Oaxaca. I mean, I can go on storyline and storyline and storyline on how I got here, but we don't have that much time. But I pretty much had a little bit of a spiritual breakdown when I was here with my friend and his dad. We brought him up to see my medicine woman, and we had a beautiful ceremony. During that ceremony, okay, there's another spiritual aspect of this too. Over these 5 years, when I go back to San Diego and I'm kind of in the midst of all of this turmoil, right?
Yeah.
I have this darkness enter me, and it's just darkness. It's that ego, that demon comes up because the ego is how I survived growing up. That's who I became, was my ego. I luckily was able to shed that, but so then I will get consumed by it. I will get consumed by these dark thoughts by battle. It's battle. I mean, my life, my home life, my family life is battle, right?
Mm.
And he was a boxer. This is also just who we are. He was a boxer. He was a warrior, and his dad was a warrior. And you go back far enough, and we were the Aztecs, and we have battle in our genes.
Yes.
it consumes me. And then I leave San Diego and I come to Oaxaca and I am here in this beautiful place. And then I go to my healers, I go to my medicine woman, and then they literally take it out of me like an exorcism. Really. You know, they do the kopal, they do the thing and the whole ceremony, and then I just feel so much lighter. I've had it witnessed twice already. Before we did our first retreat here, our first Ascension retreat last year, my facilitator team and I had a ceremony with my medicine woman. Same issue, same family thing, same darkness. She sees it, she knows it, she sees it right away. She does her thing. When she did her work on me and she kopaled this dark spirit or whatever it is away, my two facilitators said that the room, at that moment, the room turned bright and my face lit up and my eyes were light, like right at the moment where my medicine woman did her thing. And I did feel lighter. And then I felt free all of a sudden. And then I couldn't stop smiling for like 20 minutes. I couldn't stop smiling as she was dancing and singing her songs to God. I mean, I experienced it. They saw it. It was miraculous. I was on cloud nine after that. That was right before our retreat. And then we did a retreat, blew it out of the water, and that was amazing, right? So there was just love entered my heart, euphoria entered my heart, connection, all of that, right? And I'm just like, cloud nine. Then I go back to San Diego, but a month later, it's darkness again. This has happened 4 or 5 times now in a row. Every single time it happens, you know. So just happened again 2 months ago. We brought my friend and his dad. We had a ceremony. She saw my darkness. She's like, oh, it's back. She did her thing. She got out of her coupon. She wafted out the door. And my friend who was sitting right beside me, at that point, I couldn't get to the emotions yet. I was like, I was a rock. I couldn't get it. I was told her, I can't feel the darkness I need to release. I know it's there, but I can't feel it. Right. Then she pulls out a coupon, does her thing. I felt like a cork pop open in me. And then all this emotion came out and I started to cry and cry and cry. And she wafts something out the door. My friend later told me he saw this eye-shaped dark spirit, dark something, kind of rise out of my body and leave out the door, right where she was doing her feather with her coupon, just gone. And then, of course, I felt better. The next day I could breathe. I could breathe deep. I've been monitoring my nervous system because I've been in what's called functional freeze state, where you're just holding your breath. And I haven't been able to get out of that. The whole time I was in San Diego, I couldn't get out of that. The next day after we had our ceremony, just breathing again, breathing, you know. And so there's that element that I am now very in touch with, because I'm on this path and I'm doing ceremony, I'm training with her. And, you know, I've had this aperture open, this energetic aperture open, where I'm really connecting with energy a lot, you know.
So would you say that because you're having you through this dark time that you're saying it's a dark time, you're also able to feel amazing during this time, right? So
right.
Would you say that because there's that, I think it's because you like stoicism, right? There's that how do you say it? Epictetus.
Epictetus.
Yeah, he has that quote that says, it's not it's not the things that affect us, it's our judgment of the things that affect us.
Exactly.
So once we fix the way we see things, nothing will affect us, basically, is what he's saying, you know?
Yeah.
Would you say that the battle is more of a battle within? The battle that you face is the battle within, as opposed to battling the outside things, the family or the brother. It's really the battle within, because even though you're battling those outside worldly things, there are times during this that you're at one with God, and those outside worldly things are no longer bothering you.
Yes.
So I guess the mission is to get to the point where we're always at one with God, and the outside worldly things never bother us.
Yes.
Would you say that's what we're shooting for?
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's the goal. Easier said than done, but that's the goal.
That's way easier said than done.
I mean, you know, and so I understand that whole continuum, and the work with IFS, Internal Family Systems, is beautiful, and it's really helping me with that. I mean, that is the work. So every day I'm working at that every day. But what we see in Internal Family Systems is it's the same thing. It's a mirror image. So the external family system is a mirror image of the internal family system. But the internal family system creates the external family system, right? But what, you know, go to Stoic trainings, what do we have control over, what do we not control? We only control ourselves. So I know intellectually, very much so, and in my body as well, that it's the battle within, just calm this warrior down, love, just focus on love, all that stuff, and then it'll emanate out and that'll manifest eventually into healthier external family systems. So I know this whole process, of course. The problem is that the nervous system is so convincing, of course. The nervous system underwrites the story, the subconscious story, and then before you know it, you're acting out on the emotion that was sparked. And that emotion, which is in my nervous system is battle, goes back to when I was born, So yes, it's completely correct. You cannot fix any external problems by focusing on those external problems. You have to start within. You have to resolve that inner turmoil within. So inside, I have the battle and the turmoil that is manifesting in my external world. And so I'm interacting in the physical world with that world, but it's starting from within. And that's the work. So every day I do my thing. I do my practice. I have my Stoic quotes and I repeat them over in my head, treat each separate day as a separate life, Seneca. Every day I say that, every day, to just erase the past, erase that. And that's what I do, that's what I do. But it's really hard. It's hard because a lot of times I still feel the same. I still feel like I'm not safe. Ultimately, it comes down to I don't feel safe. And I don't feel safe because of what's going on here in my family. And, you can tell yourself all of these positive affirmations all you want. But if you, at your core, you don't feel safe, it's just not a happy place,
Yep.
But that's the work. And that's why plant medicine is imperative, imperative for me right now. The ayahuasca journeys, this recent one that I have, we could talk about in a bit, it healed a physical manifestation of all of this trauma that I'm going through. Beautiful. So it's that right there on itself. I have a tool that is healing me through this process and keeping me still pretty thriving. I'm still in Oaxaca. I'm still able to work and do all my things. It's just this darkness in my soul instead of this joy that I've had for those first few years of my journey, And so my work now is just try and break apart that darkness, dissipate that darkness, and it's working. It's especially the last 2 weeks. I've been, sadly, it coincides with how far out of my consciousness these issues are. So sadly, the work I have to do right now is erase my whole family from my consciousness. Sadly, it is. I don't know any other way to say it that it won't be real. But as I do that, then I can displace that darkness with love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So have you been doing a lot of mushroom work? I'm assuming yes, but how often are you doing mushroom work right now?
It's just been a few times since I got here.
A few ceremonies? Okay.
Yeah.
So no microdosing in between or anything, or?
No, I haven't really been microdosing.
No. Okay.
No. Just came across some fresh ones a few times. And so I had some pretty deep healing and cleansing. And
Okay.
right now, during this process, what the mushrooms have been doing is allowing me to tap into that pain, cry it out, quite literally cry it out for like a few hours, and then feel the euphoria, feel the love, feel the connection, So it's like a displacement. There's a lot of trauma here that's trapped, and you have to release it somatically somehow, crying, laughing, anything like that, and then it dissipates. It's like breaking it up, like a big knot, and then breaking it up, and then you of course feel so much better after you cry, and then the euphoria from the psilocybin interaction, serotonin, and all that stuff, then you feel good and you feel love, and so that elevates it. I think of it as tuning my nervous system. The nervous system has been tuning itself since we were in utero, and it's continually tuning according to external threats, external environment. And so if you go a few years where there's a lot of turmoil, you're going to be on edge, and then you're just not going to be as joyful. You do a lot of plant medicine work, a lot of crying, a lot of feeling euphoria. It's sort of the opposite of PTSD. We're familiar with the term post-traumatic stress, but there's also post-traumatic growth. So the mushrooms and plant medicine infuse you with euphoria physically, your nervous system feels that. That's post-traumatic growth. So then it brings it back to center. Let's say over here is a really jacked nervous system, which my nervous system was the most jacked it's probably ever been when I first arrived here in Oaxaca, a few months ago. And then over here is complete bliss, euphoria, absolute joy and love. Well, your nervous system is oscillating back and forth. A lot of trauma, you're going to be over here on this side. When I arrived here, I was way over here. So with ayahuasca, with the medicine, with the mushroom medicine journeys, my nervous system, I can bring it back towards center, closer to the euphoric side. And so that's another way that plant medicine works in relation to the nervous system. Physiologically, these are all from scientific studies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And experience, right? And experience.
I mean, yeah, of course. We know it, right?
Yeah.
But to try and explain it so it's not just subjective, it's.
Yeah, exactly. I found some, they have like mushroom gummies as well now that they're making. And I've tried a few different ones. I found this one. It's like the perfect dosage for me. I'll take it a couple times a week. And man, those psilocybin is just such a powerful medicine, man. Without just on a micro dose level, I take a half of one, and it'll I'll feel it, and anything going on in my life that I need to think about. It'll give me a little 45 minutes of like therapy where I'm realizing things I need to think about. And then after that, you're just in this place of like you were saying, just like love, just from taking this plant, man. It's just a loving place where anyone you speak to, no matter what their energy is, if they're angry, egotistical, it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect you at all. You just love them. You're just, everything is just really nice and loving. I think that's because it takes you, like you said, into I would say more to like a homeostasis, like back to our center line, like back to our God connection, yeah. And it looks like it just more and more steps toward legalization too is pretty awesome here in the United States.
Yeah.
Every week I'm seeing something new about getting closer to legalization. So, yeah, anyhow, just want to add that in.
I think what is it? SB 58, the current bill in California, just needs Newsom's signature, from what I believe.
Really?
I think we're really close. Yeah.
For
and then
legal
for decriminalizing in California, yeah. And Decriminalize California has their own bill that they're trying to push through.
Wow.
So I'm pretty hopeful. Yeah, I think this is the year for California.
Getting there. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Right on. So how long are you down there? And what are you doing while you're there? Like, what type of work are you doing while you're there? Are you doing as far as the work on yourself?
Yeah. It's been a lot of meditating. What has really helped me out a lot, of course, the plant medicine journeys, but is just being here in nature, just being surrounded by nature where I am, on the edge of this little village, and there's nothing but nature around me. And when I first got here, my mind was just going crazy all over the place. It's hard to settle down, hard to feel any joy, really, to be honest. And then that slowly started to settle down. My mind started to settle down, going on forest walks. And it's just so miraculous. It's amazing for me to feel that process and to feel the power of nature, because really the surrounding forest is also co-regulating my nervous system. It's also absorbing the chaotic energy that I absorb from San Diego, from the city life, from the issues in my life, and you carry this energy with you. We are energetic beings. Everything is energy. And so, you're this big ball of sort of dysfunctional energy. And when you're around people and modern society and modern environments, then there's a lot of energy, and you're absorbing more energy, or people are kind of sucking you from your energy. And then it's just a big pool of energy moving, and chaotic energy. So it's kind of really hard to do this deep of work and deal with these deep problems in society. Really, I feel like the universe, this is the only place that I could have healed, and it's working. And just, coincidence after coincidence brought me here. I happen to have a friend here who has a house here, and she's in California for 2 months. She's like, hey, you could just stay in my place. So this has essentially been kind of like a silent retreat for me too. There's no tourism here where I am. There's a few people I talk to every once in a while. but I have just been focusing on just healing myself through this current trauma I'm going through. And it's that simple, really, to just be in nature. I can feel myself slow down with nature. It just absorbs that chaotic energy. It balances you out. It brings you back to homeostasis. And that, I mean, that's the most important work for me right now. You know, when you ask, like, what are you doing for work? I'm still like working all my stuff, and I've got the documentary I'm working on, and all, you know, it's hard to stop from doing that. So my work is to try and stop from doing that and
Yeah.
just meditate, just go for a walk, just slow down, slow down, slow down. You know, my best friend has been telling me for 2 years, dude, just stop, just slow down, just stop, stop. And so that's what I'm doing here. I'm just stopping. And it's so healing. And to develop that love and that trust with nature, and with just trees, you know, and that's where the love comes in. That's where the homeostasis happens, you know. So it's I mean, that's one way, you know, to deal with issues like this is isolate yourself. Go into, this is why, right? This is why a lot of the philosophers, a lot of the people back in the day, and a lot of the early psychedelic pioneers, you know, they kind of go off into a cave or into a forest.
Jesus did it,
Jesus did it,
right?
yeah.
He went off into the mountains for 40
Exactly.
days or whatever, right?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, most of them, I think I would say
Most of them, yeah.
9 out of 10, you know, Ram Dass, any of those guys who really are in the thick of it, there's no way to really deal with that in society. So you have to just go and be a part of nature for a while and gather yourself, get back to equilibrium, get back to homeostasis, and
Yes.
heal yourself, because I can't heal other people if I'm not healed, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so it's a lot of self work right now. Like I'm healing myself is what I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah. That's nature is, yeah, that's I think I told you how I moved to Kauai after I retired. Or maybe I didn't, but I retired from police department, and then I just sold everything and moved my family to Kauai, which is just like jungle, you know.
Yeah.
And I feel it was the same type of thing, like just disconnect to this remote jungle island for almost 4 years.
Yeah.
And I don't know why the fuck I did that, but I did it, you know, because I felt like,
Yeah.
yeah, you have to get out there, you know. And I remember hiking, first being there and just hiking by myself in the jungle and just
Hmm.
being overwhelmed by the power of nature and just crying, you know, just
Yeah.
stopping to cry because
Right.
I don't even know why, you know. It's just like,
Yeah.
it's so powerful to be out in nature and away from this simulated, like,
Yeah.
weird cement fucking prison that we live in out here in the city, you know.
Yeah.
So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
nature's huge, man. It's huge
Yeah.
for healing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, man.
And
So
I mean, if you think about it, you know, we part of the biggest problem with society and the mental health crisis and what's happening is this illusion of separation, right? This idea that we are separate from nature, when in fact, of course, we are nature. You know, the cells in our body have been in creation since the beginning of time, through evolution, through passing on that knowledge, that infinite wisdom. We are literally the universe in expansion, literally the universe's materials at this point in evolution. So we are the same as the tree. So when we're surrounded by nature, we're home. And our deeper wisdom knows that. And it trusts it because nature is the perfect balance. Nature is perfection. And so it's a
yes,
much deeper knowing that we have when we're in nature, that we are home, we are nature. You know, it's that illusion of separation. There's humans and there's nature. And obviously, when you're living in a concrete jungle in a city, that's easy to feel, to believe. You know, so
yeah,
that's why nature just boom is the answer right there.
yeah, yeah, totally disconnected. We get totally disconnected from ourselves, really, right?
Yeah,
If we're
right,
disconnected from nature, we're disconnected from ourselves.
right.
Yeah, man. Um, yeah, I'd love to see. You'll have to send me a video or something of your surroundings out there, like the nature portion of
Oh
it,
man, yeah, definitely,
what you're connected to. I'd love to see that, man.
definitely.
Um, yeah,
It's
yeah.
beautiful, man. It's beautiful. It's just 360 degrees of nothing but mountain. It's just incredible. And
Wow.
it just got over the rainy season, so it's been sprouting mushrooms everywhere.
Oh, wow. And everything's probably just green as can be too.
Oh
So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
awesome, man.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. You have to show me some pictures or something, man.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
the culture, the I mean, it's such a healing place. You know, medicine is part of this culture. Healing is part of this culture. They understand healing. They understand it is normal to need nature to heal. Healing is a normal thing. It's not a taboo thing. You know, there's such a heavy weight to these words in the modern world in the US, no trauma. And it just all suggests that we're broken, that there's something wrong with us, and we have to find a solution. It's almost this just a feeling of anxiety when you even think about it. You know, sort of a premise that humans are broken and we must be fixed. But here, the culture is so much different. It's, of course, you need to heal. Things happen. It's just natural. It's normal. We have the resources because we have nature. And so healing is a normal thing. It's not something that's looked down upon or even felt like it is something negative. It's a natural, normal process of the human body and the human mind, you know.
Yeah.
So it's great to be in that environment, in that mindset, you know. It's a lot more collaboration in these cultures as well. And so it's just like it's just a very more of a joyful, natural existence, you know.
Yeah, definitely. So how long you said 2 months you think you'll be out there, or longer, or what do you think?
I'm going to be here at least. I have a friend visiting tomorrow. I'm pretty excited about that. I've been doing this work. I've been like on silent retreat here for, you know, almost 2 months. And wow, been through battles with my mind and some dark places, but I'm making it out the other side. And so I have some friends visiting. So I'm looking forward to just kind of enjoying and having a good time. So I'll be with him and then another friend visiting for about the next month or so. And then we're going to go to Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead in Oaxaca.
Oh wow.
Go
That'll
enjoy
be
that. Yeah, it's going to be a really great month. Now I'm getting like the benefits of the work I put in. I'm gonna have an excellent next month. And
good.
I'll probably be here until the end of the year or so.
Yeah.
And then I'm not sure. Yeah, figure out the next
Yeah.
step.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Have you been to that celebration in Oaxaca
Yeah, we
before?
did.
You
Mhm.
have?
Yeah, last year for the first time, it was we actually scheduled our retreat to coincide with that. So we
Oh
took
wow.
our whole retreat team down to Oaxaca after the retreat was over in the mountains. So, you know, we had 5 days of just magical, mystical healing in the mountains, and then took them all down to the city for Day of the Dead. Yeah, it was
Wow.
incredible,
That sounds cool,
incredible.
man. That sounds
Mhm.
awesome. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. That's
and just
cool.
how they honor, you know, the cycles of life and death, and understand that and embrace death because it's so symbolic of the psychedelic journey too. The psychedelic journey is a rebirth. It's a you know, that cycle. So it just really wrapped up the whole retreat in such a perfect way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a rebirth, and it kind of I felt personally, and I don't know if you feel the same way, that it kind of prepares you for death as well.
Yes.
Some psychedelic journey sometimes, you kind of see what death is,
Right.
maybe. You
Right.
learn to kind of let go, and you understand that you're gonna have to let go. At some
Right.
point you have to completely let go. So might as well
Right.
start practicing now.
Exactly.
Yeah, man. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Like the plaque at Ulysses in Greece says, if you die before you die, then when you die, you won't die.
Yeah, yeah, right?
That's
Yeah.
what the Greeks. That's what the Greeks wrote. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The Lucius or whatever,
Yeah.
they were up there doing psychedelics too, man. Coming up
Exactly.
with all these quotes. Yeah.
Exactly. And that was the birth of philosophy.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah, man. Uh,
Amazing
that's
history.
yeah, right. It's cool. Yeah, if you die, what is it? If you die before you die, then
Then when you die, you won't die.
you won't die. Exactly. That's
Yeah.
if you haven't experienced that idea, it's hard to explain to somebody, but that
Right.
makes complete sense to me. If you
Right.
experience death before you die, when you die, you don't really die.
Yeah.
That's fucking 100% true, but it sounds like you're crazy if you say it to somebody who doesn't,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hence those narratives, you know, clashing a bit.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Um,
what it is. That's what it is. Well, and also like on the philosophical view of death, I forget if it was Socrates. No, it was one of the Stoics. I believe it was Seneca, who says that the whole point of philosophy and the whole point of life is learning how to die. It's
mm,
preparing, it's learning how to let go of attachments up until the ultimate act of letting go.
letting
So
go.
all of life is a practice on how to die, on how to let go.
Wow.
And
I,
all of
I
philosophy is that too.
I fucking agree. I couldn't agree more. you're learning how to let, you're learning how to let go,
Mhm.
you know, for the
Yeah,
ultimate letting go, right?
for the ultimate
Yeah.
letting go. Yeah, the
Yeah,
ultimate
man.
act. Yeah,
Yeah. And I see
exactly.
people who are ready to go, but they won't let go. So they
Yeah,
stay and they suffer.
yeah.
You know, you suffer with sickness and with old age, even, you know, because they're not. I have a close family member who I feel is close to that time, you know, but
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
feel like he doesn't want to, which is fine. He's on his own journey, you know, but I feel
Right,
like you can hold on and not let go, and it makes it a harder journey, you
right.
know, when you get to
Absolutely.
when the time comes, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I hope we really revamp once we get through the decriminalization, and we start to allow these therapies to be accessible to people. I hope we really revamp how we approach death, end of life care. Death should be a celebration. It shouldn't be this dark thing in a hospital room. It should be a ceremony. It should be a beautiful thing to create a beautiful condition for that person to transition,
Yes.
because that is how it is in indigenous cultures. It's not looked upon as this dreadful thing. So I hope we can really revamp revamp how we approach end of life care. Really, we
Yeah.
just have so much to learn from indigenous cultures, so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really just learning from ourselves, right? Just going back to
Yeah,
how we getting away from our ego and back to our
right,
natural way of life.
right,
Um, yeah. Imagine if everybody was just raised with the idea that we're living this life, and at the end of it, we get this second journey that begins with death, you know, and this is the
right,
journey we're working toward. You
right.
know, like if that's the way you were raised and that was part of our culture and all of us understood that, it would be a whole different world, right?
Absolutely,
Everybody would approach life differently if death
right.
wasn't made to be. Our ego has made death this horrible thing, right? Because we want to hold on to life.
Yeah, right,
Yeah,
right. Exactly, exactly.
yeah,
Right, right.
yeah,
And that's, again, that's why medicines, I believe, are necessary, so that you can see the overview. You can have that overview effect. You can zoom out and you can see how death implies life, because it's not even logical otherwise. Um, I heard a quote from, I believe it was Naval Ravikant, that without death, life would be inconsequential.
mm,
It would be meaningless
mm,
if you were guaranteed to live forever. I mean, that's the whole riddle. You know, Death is what gives life its existence.
yes,
It's special. It's special because of death. Otherwise, it
yes,
just would be what any other thing.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's true, man. If you were just living forever, then
Yeah,
what would be the point? What
right.
would be the point? You just keep working or keep, you know? I
Yeah,
think you're here for a certain amount of time, and you're here to learn your lessons to
yeah,
evolve, you know.
exactly.
And
Well, have you heard Alan Watts talk about that? About the idea of life being a dream?
I'm
And go ahead.
no, no, go ahead, go ahead. I'm sure I have is what I was gonna say, but
Yeah, you probably have it. I'll just
refresh
kind of
me. Yeah.
sum it up. It's just so beautiful that if there's this God, or just an all-knowing thing, entity, whatever this is, and had the ability to live forever, or dream whatever, that eventually that would get boring. That you kind of get tired of it. If you live forever, then there's no consequence to anything at all, and so then you would start to be riskier in your dreams. You'd start to dream different things that are a bit riskier, and then you'd push it, and you'd push it more and more, until one day you dream the dream of living the life that we're living now. So you would just push that guarantee that this is a dream, so you're never going to die, and then you trick yourself into believing that you are going to die. So in essence, is this, according to Alan, is the evolution of God's dream, and now we're in that dream.
Hmm. That's deep, man.
He says it a lot more eloquent, but
That's deep.
but that's the idea. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Because then there's a point. Then there's a search. There's purpose.
yeah,
There's it's not just a never-ending dream, because that would get boring.
yeah. It would. Yeah, yeah, it changes everything that there's a fucking time clock. There's a time clock that's counting down, you know?
Mhm.
Changes everything
Right.
that at the end of the path that we're walking on, that death is right there. That changes the whole game, you
Yeah.
know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, big time.
Exactly.
Because you can't escape. You can't escape. There's no
Right.
escaping it, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna leave here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, man. Yep.
Exactly.
Mm,
Exactly. That's why death is the bringer of truth. Also,
yeah,
at the moment of death, all trivial things will vanish. They will not matter anymore. You know,
yeah,
only the things that are real will matter.
exactly. So anything pertaining to your ego is just
Yeah.
it's not gonna matter, you know?
Exactly. Hmm.
Wow. Do you think that so one of the so the ultimate letting go is death, right? And I feel like we're here learning lessons. Everybody's learning these spiritual lessons, and you, you want to get as close to, like you were saying, you want to get as close to your oneness as you can. You want to learn as much about yourself as you can, about letting go, about being at one, about being love, right? You want to get as close to that as you can by the time you die. Um, Sometimes one thought that I've had is you want to get as close to that before you die, because if you don't, if you don't learn the lessons you need to learn, you're going to keep on learning those lessons
Right.
beyond. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? You're still going to,
Right.
just like in the, which I thought about that during my trips where, like, especially the ayahuasca, where it was telling me, and I was just experiencing this terror and what seemed to be being in hell over and over, and I was stuck in it. And it was telling me, if you don't learn to let go in this lifetime, this is going to
Yeah.
be the continuance. You're going to continue to experience this shit as you move through the ethers of fucking beyond and infinity, you know?
Hmm.
So our lifetime right now is our chance to cleanse ourselves of all of these attachments so that we can experience euphoria into the infinite.
Hmm.
But if not, then you will continue on suffering until you learn the lessons, whatever
Yeah.
fashion that is. You know, some cultures say you start life over again, you continue learning, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? On the continual learning of these lessons, or if they just go away when you die, or what do you think about that?
Oh no, I think it's absolutely true. Most definitely. And that is the point as well of evolution. Is that's I've been diving deep into that, and that has a lot to do with um, how I view my role right now and what I'm doing in my life and my surroundings and my family situation, all of that. Is how do you evolve those traits? Everything is passed down. Epigenetics is becoming more and more of a real understood science. Our tendencies, our behaviors, all these things, all information. I had some really powerful journeys in San Diego, almost a year ago, where I really felt the connection to my ancient, I believe, Mayan roots. I had some energy work done where there was some energy cutting and I was like convulsing, and this was on no mushrooms or anything, completely, completely, sober, nothing at all. And I was shaking uncontrollably from the energy work, this cord cutting of this Mayan roots that I had. And so I felt that in my body. I felt that all experiences, all humans, all organisms, everything's recorded. And then it's like compressed into like a zip file and then passed forward in our DNA. And it's cumulative, right? So there's infinite knowledge in every cell of our body. And then the environment determines the gene expressions. It determines what gets turned on, turned off, what gets activated, and that's evolution. And so, the game of evolution is how can we continually improve ourselves? And this is what we're learning in epigenetics. And so that I believe is part of the point of humanity. And what I'm trying to do is to break that cycle of these sort of dysfunctional behaviors that were inherited. And that's how we continually do that. Or else maybe not you coming back as, in a different body and going over the same, learning the same mistakes, learning the same patterns, but you're passing that on. So your small part in evolution is to improve your DNA so that you can improve humanity overall, or else humanity will keep dipping into these dysfunctional patterns. So, I see it as both ways. That as you, in a way, your energy will keep repeating the same lessons until you learn, and at the same time, you are passing on the lessons learned or the lessons you didn't learn, and then just perpetuating those same, the same toxic cycles or whatever it is. So yeah, it's our inherent duty, I believe, as well, to work on yourself, because working on yourself, improving yourself, you're improving your DNA, and then you're passing that improved DNA forward. And we know this through studies of Holocaust survivors that are, their offspring are more fit for starvation, for example. So everything is passed forward. So if you are a very anxious person and you don't do anything to try and resolve that or bring your nervous system, closer to homeostasis, then your offspring will be more inclined to have a lot of anxiety, and so that's passing on those genes. And so it is our, so what's the lesson there? Well, it's learn how our nervous system works and then figure out how to regulate it, which ultimately brings in the environment and co-regulation, and all goes back to, well, we're all one. We all have to work together. Together we can co-regulate, and we can all rise and elevate together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. So what do you think? What do you think happens when you die?
You don't die. Yeah, that's the question, huh? That's the question. That's the question. Our tiny little minds and brains and perception, I mean, can't even fathom, right? But it's a transfer of energy. It has to be a transfer of energy. It just gets reabsorbed. Um, it's like an interface, I think, these bodies, and then this physical reality is an interface, just like the screen on a computer. And so once we reach expiration of that soul's energy, well, the material is no longer needed. The earth will use the material to plant new trees, new things, soil. But the energy is not destroyed, and we know this from physics. Energy cannot be destroyed. So that energy must move on. It must move forward somewhere, and that's the big question. Who knows if we'll ever find out? But I know the energy is not destroyed.
Yeah. 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 We'll see. See what happens, huh? See
Yeah,
how it
right.
goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
I mean, there's
yeah.
plenty of people who believe in past lives, and there's even some, from what I have seen, seems like legit reincarnation studies in universities. I believe University of, I forget which one, but that's the Buddhists have been saying these things for a long time. Um,
Yeah.
that in itself too, though, the search for truth we do need, and I love the search for truth, but at the same time, we can't really ever know the absolute truth. Again, that would make it boring. What happens
Yeah.
then? What happens then? I got it all figured out. Sweet, check. No, that's just not going to be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. It ruins the whole purpose of this challenging journey that
Right.
we're on, right? Yeah.
Exactly. That's why I don't think there will ever be a day where we know, you know.
Yeah. No, we won't. We'll think we know.
Yeah,
A
yeah,
lot of us think we know,
yeah,
but you really don't know,
yeah.
So,
Right. And that's a blessing.
yeah, it's good not to know.
It's a blessing. Yeah.
Yep.
It keeps it interesting.
Uh, yeah, man. Like Deepak Chopra says, the magic of life is in the not knowing,
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
yeah, man. Um,
yeah, that quote's or he has a similar quote, and I tell people when they are in a state of not knowing and feeling a lot of stress and anxiety and uncertainty, right? And Deepak says something along the lines that the known, that this is a blessing. If you don't know where you're going, if you're totally lost, consider yourself lucky because everything is possible, right? According to this law that the known, if you know it, well, then it's locked in, you know it. The known is a prison of past conditioning, and the unknown is the realm of all possibilities. So we shouldn't strive to know everything, because then that narrows down possibilities of what we can do or what we can be or what can happen, because now you know it. So it's
Yes.
actually a blessing to be completely lost. It's a blessing to not have any idea what's going to happen next.
Exactly. But that is a concept that's very hard to accept by most people because your ego wants to know everything.
Yep.
So most people want to know they have their whole life planned out. As long as they're comfortable with their daily life, they're fine. But they've with that mindset, you block out all of the magic of possibility, like you were talking
Exactly.
about. Like if
Yeah.
if I feel, I know you're probably the same way. If I feel too comfortable, I have to get something going that I don't know. I have
Yeah.
to jump into something that I don't know to feel better
Yeah.
about life,
Exactly.
because yeah, how can you change anything if you know everything,
Mhm.
you know?
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
It shuts off the infinite possibilities, the infinity of the universe. It shuts off because now you're narrowed to what you can understand. Where one person, one vantage point with this little brain can understand. You snatch onto that, and then that's letting go of the infinity of everything else.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Love it. Love it,
It
man.
sounds crazy unless you've eaten a few mushrooms.
Yeah, yeah, that bro, that honestly that really puts a lot into perspective as far as life.
Yeah,
Tripping, plant medicine, everything
yeah,
during your trip is really there's a lot going on, but the big piece of it is that it's always a metaphor for whatever you're learning there. It teaches you about life itself. You learn about
yes,
life itself from the trip, you know.
right,
And I've noticed that in every trip that I've had. It
right,
applies whatever's happening in the trip on a micro scale
yeah,
is the same thing that is happening in life, so you can
yeah,
apply those lessons to your life. Um,
yeah,
yeah, man.
yeah,
Um,
exactly, exactly.
yeah. Yeah, I remember on one mushroom trip where I think it was a little heavier mushroom trip I was doing. Probably my first mushroom trip. I was up in the Sierra Nevada mountains, and yeah, I remember I went through the fucking intense portion, and afterward, I was just sitting there, and I was like realizing that everything around me was just this sea of like infinite. Every answer to every question is
Hmm.
out there. You're just sitting in this sea of infinite possibilities, man. Like this
Hmm.
is what we live like. We're sitting here, and everything around us is just infinite
Hmm.
possibilities. It's just a
Yeah,
matter of if you want to make those possibilities realities or not.
right, right.
Or not if you want to even. It's if you got to figure out the combination lot, right? To
Yeah,
make these possibilities into realities. Um,
right.
but yeah, yeah, plant medicine, it's a powerful tool, man, for humans.
Yeah,
Most
yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
And another way to think about the intelligence that is downloaded from plant medicine for people who are intimidated or scared or don't understand it, or it seems like these plant medicines are imparting some wisdom that is extraterrestrial, not extraterrestrial, but just something that's maybe not real, for example, is that all these plant medicines have obviously been around a lot longer than humans have been, right? The lessons that have been researched and studies are the lessons of connection, are the realizations of the unity of all substance, which all of this is true of. So the lessons that are imparted can be backed up physically, scientifically. And the mode of the lecture from these plant medicines is far beyond words, of course. We communicate through words and we make sounds and we make meanings of those sounds. But at the end of the day, it's just sounds, just like, monkeys do. And, back in our evolution that we made sounds and that's how we communicate. But our nervous system, the language of our nervous system is electrical activity. The language of the brain is electrical activity. The language of the heart is electrical activity. When we eat the mushrooms, these plant medicines, they are communicating through electric activity directly with our nervous system, directly with the deepest parts of our brain, with our physiology. And there is no need for our conscious mind. There's no need for words. That's why these experiences are enough. That's why these experiences are so transcendent. They're so far beyond anything you can explain, because language and words are primitive. It is a primitive form of communication. So it is the highest form of intelligence. It is the highest form of transmitting and transferring information of the earth, it's of the universe itself and how the universe works. And that's why you come away with these noetic feelings of this knowledge that you know deep in your heart that that reality is more real than this reality, because it is real, because it is telling us electrically, directly to our nervous system, which runs the show, that everything is connected at the end of the day. When we lose that ego and that ego dissolves, it doesn't just leave a vacuum. Something displaces it. The displacement is the reality of everything, which is everything is interconnected. And there's that balance, right? The ego separation, loses separation, which we do need for survival. There's that, of course, that is true. But that's why it comes down to the balance of the universe. But when you dissolve that ego, then you gain the connectedness, which is scientifically true and is information transmitted to our nervous system from the plants electrically. So, that's another rational scientific way of explaining how this works.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Our language, you make a really good point, and people don't really think about that either. Just that our language is it's very hard to communicate with this language. There's
Yep.
there's such a higher level of communication, but all we have as these like primates, these high level primates, are these sounds. And I make a sound and you hear the sound and a picture goes into your mind of what my sound means, but my sound could mean something totally different than what the picture is in your mind. And we're just constantly exchanging these sounds and trying to interpret what these sounds mean, when there's such a we just haven't reached the level of communication that we probably will someday. That's part of
Right.
evolution, I guess. I mean, we're communicating better than the chimpanzees, right? As
Mm-hmm.
far as verbal communication, but
Mm-hmm.
who knows where we'll be in a million years as far as communication, telepathy or
Right.
something. I don't know. But
Right.
that's
Right.
why I was having a podcast with my other friend, and he would put so much focus on, this is minor, but he would put so much focus on words. It's like, shouldn't say that, shouldn't say that word, or you shouldn't curse, shouldn't say that word. I'm like, bro, I'm a primate making a sound.
Yeah.
You're just another primate interpreting that sound, and so is everyone else listening. If you don't like,
Yeah.
if you don't like what I'm saying with the sounds coming out of my mouth, that's just on you. These are
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
sounds. That's minor. Like, let's not worry about the sounds
Yeah.
coming out of our mouth. Let's worry about maybe the energy we're putting out or the way we're affecting other people by
Yeah.
using these sounds. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very primitive.
Yeah.
These sounds. Yeah, exactly. Good point, man.
Yeah. I always joke with my friends that we're just monkeys in clothing and we're just squawking, making sounds. We're not that much more advanced. That's still what we that's
Yeah,
still what we're doing. We're just squawking, making sounds.
yeah.
And it's
Monkeys.
it's thanks to and I believe this, thanks to psilocybin, according to Terence McKenna's Stone Age theory, that we are able to make meaning of the squawking and the sounds, because that developed the language centers in our brain. Because understanding language is literally synesthesia. It's taking a sound and applying meaning to it. And that developed from our early hominids eating psilocybin mushrooms. It's a hypothesis, but it's pretty rational.
Yeah, it makes sense. You know. And then you would think, like, if an alien or something came and was watching us, they would say these primates they've developed this higher level language, but they've also enslaved themselves in these strange societies that they've created.
Yeah.
Unless somebody else created these societies and enslaved us, or do we enslave ourselves? And these strange primates that wear these weird cotton things over their bodies, and have all these trivial, like, they chase after this green paper. It means
Mm-hmm.
nothing,
Mm-hmm.
but it means everything to them. And we're trying,
Yeah.
and scientists are trying to
Right.
figure out why this green paper means so much to these
Yeah.
primates on this planet. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, man. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. It's crazy.
I
Yeah, man.
know. I know. There should
Yeah, man.
be a movie, a show, something uh to to portray that, because really,
Right.
if a complete alien, intelligence just observed, I mean, wow.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah. They would be tripping out on us.
Right.
Yeah, man. So, oh shit, man. Well, dude, it's been a couple hours, and
I know, man. How long
there's
have we been
more I
talking?
wanted to. Yeah, it's been 2 hours, man. There's more I want to touch on, but
Wow.
yeah, I'm gonna have to get going right now. But I wouldn't mind doing this again soon, man. I mean,
Yeah, 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 definitely.
yeah.
Let me finish off really quick with this ayahuasca story then.
Oh yeah, go for it, man.
The recent journey. So check this out. This whole thing last few years with my family, and then this dark spirit that kind of enters my soul, and then it goes away when I'm here and it goes back. Well, there's a shoulder pain that I've had accompany my visits to San Diego.
Really,
And yeah, this shoulder right here. And it started about 2 years ago, 2.5 years
right
ago,
shoulder.
and
Okay.
right shoulder. Just a pain. I couldn't pinpoint where it was coming from, the location. I went to some therapists in San Diego, some doctors, get checked out, got X-ray. They did some massage and some physical therapy. Just couldn't shake it, couldn't get rid of it. Then I come to
Yeah.
Oaxaca. I see my medicine woman. Mostly goes away, but it's always been kind of there.
Okay.
So this last time I was in San Diego for 8 months or so, it got really bad. Got really bad. Of course, so did my turmoil and my family issues. And I knew deep down it was correlated, right? I just couldn't prove it. And I knew it had to do with the stress. I just knew it. So I came back this last time and decided to stay. And at that point, it was killing. It was like the worst it had been. Like I had to sleep on my left side because if I slept on it, it would really, really mess it up. It was just so painful. And so I was just really hoping to get to the bottom of it. And then miraculously, through this other angel that I met, and a whole another long story we'll talk about next time, there was an ayahuasca ceremony happening, and she invited me. So I thought, okay, let's go. Went to my second ayahuasca journey.
Was this the same retreat? Different. This is different.
No, different. This is different. This was
Where is
just a
this
few
one
weeks
at?
ago in Oaxaca as well,
Oh,
like
in
in another
Oaxaca.
village.
Okay. Okay.
About a half hour from where I'm staying. Yeah, this is in Oaxaca.
Okay.
And so, ceremony started. There was 3, 4 people in the band. There was a shaman, his daughter, and then a few participants. The Spanish girl that invited me.
In the band?
And
There was a
yeah, yeah.
band
So
there?
they played band the live Icaros.
Oh, shit, they had a band?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
shit,
Oh
bro.
no, man,
Oh,
this is
that's
next
another
level.
level.
This is
Shit.
next
Yeah.
level, man. It was. Oh, it
Damn.
was so incredible. It was so incredible, man. Second ayahuasca journey, right? The first one, wow, I saw the spider, and I mean, it was next. It was heavy, physically, everything, right?
The second,
This
first one?
one, the first one, yeah.
Okay.
So the second one, I was expecting it was gonna be the same, and I was bracing, like, oh god, here we go again.
Yeah.
Started, they did a thing, open ceremony, started playing music. Excellent musicians, excellent musicians. And a few hours went by, and I wasn't really feeling it. Wasn't feeling it. And then another few hours went by, still wasn't feeling it. Everybody else was off their rocker. Everybody else was dancing and crying and laughing just off their rocker, except one girl next to me. Me and her didn't feel it yet. And then it was like 4 hours into it. It was like 1, 2 in the morning. I still didn't feel it. And then the shaman's daughter ended up in this, what is called a subcortical limbic response. Okay, so she was non-responsive. She also took ayahuasca. She was non-responsive, and she couldn't do anything. And the energy in the room kind of went down. The band stopped playing music, and I could tell there was something happening. And I looked over. I was just concentrating on trying to feel it, trying to figure out why I wasn't feeling it yet. And then I noticed that something was going on, a little bit of heaviness in the room. And so I kind of just went, observed, looked over, and there was something. She wasn't responsive at all, and they were kind of worried about her. And so I went over and I started beating on the hand pan, the musical instruments, just to kind of distract her a bit. And then it dawned on me. All of a sudden I realized, because they weren't coming to a resolution, even the shaman himself, I could tell, was a little bit like, didn't know what to do, a little bit worried. It's his daughter. And so it came to me that I am not feeling it yet because I need to deal with the situation. And I was thinking at the time, I'm kind of glad I'm not feeling it really heavy because it seems like a situation. And I thought, oh, okay. And then I kind of clicked into like shaman mode, into like all this training that I've been doing. It just came so naturally. And I went over, and so I applied everything I knew. And so what happens a lot of times in these psychedelic journeys is if you go really deep, you know, a lot of deep trauma, early childhood trauma, your prefrontal cortex will shut down pretty much, go offline, and you'll pretty much revert back to baby. You know, and that's how she was acting. Like she was acting like a baby, couldn't talk, couldn't do anything, but she was there, she was present, but her eyes kept rolling back in her head. And so what you want to do is you want to try and bring that prefrontal cortex back online, what's called a subcortical limbic response. It's not a bad thing. She was the next day we talked about it, and she was processing things when she was like a few years old. So she went back and processed some of these mother issues that she had. And so there was a lot of deep healing going on there. But I got her attention. I got her to start breathing with me, you know, all my breath work, all the training I do. And so after the breathing, about 20 seconds later, she snaps out of it. She snapped out. She's like, "Oh man, that was intense. Oh my God, what the heck?" And she came over to me and she grabbed my hands and she said, "Thank you so much." She's like, the breathing was the clencher. You know, and she grabbed my hands and she grabbed my hands like this. She said, these hands are healing hands. I was like, wow. It was like an intense moment, you know. And during this whole process, of course, like we all have kind of like imposter syndrome, right? Like what I'm trying to do is so big and it's so important and it affects people's lives. But then you have that voice in your head, just like, what are you doing? And, you know, all of that. So for me, it was just a very confirming moment. It was just like, wow, it was a very good feeling that I was able to help this shaman, you know. And so I was like, oh, that's sweet. Thank you. You know, thanks for saying that. And so then we all welcomed her back. We're like, hey, welcome back. How was your journey? And then just an explosion of love in there in the room, and everybody gave her a hug, you know, and everybody's smiling. And the band went without a beat, went back to start playing and started playing this song called Maria la Curandera. Okay. Beautiful song. This song was I didn't notice at the time. I'd never heard this song before until this moment. Right at this moment, the ayahuasca started hitting me. I started feeling it right there.
Wow. Right when they started playing it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right when they started playing, and right after I resolved this issue with the shaman's daughter,
wow,
it started hitting me. And I felt it. And you know, that whole epiphany, like the ayahuasca is sparing me so I can help with the situation. So I saw what the ayahuasca is doing, which you probably know. You know, it works individually and collectively in the room, and everybody moves, swirls throughout the whole energy. It's a collective medicine that's working as well. And then they start playing the song Maria la Curandera, which was adapted from a poem that Maria Sabina wrote, her original poem. And I wrote down the lyrics because I just couldn't believe it. This is translated, of course, but the poem is: cure yourself with the light of the sun and the rays of the moon, with the sound of the river and the waterfall. And we're at this cabin. There's a little river right there. The stars are up above. Like this whole scene that they were singing was actually happening.
And there's a band playing this shit.
Yes,
and
yes,
wow. Singing that. Wow.
Yeah. Cure yourself with the sway of the sea and the fluttering of the birds. Heal yourself with mint, rosemary, eucalyptus. Sweeten yourself with lavender, rosemary, and eucalyptus. And this part, and it's such a beautiful song. I almost want to play the crescendo for you, because as the ayahuasca was hitting me, and I was just like, oh, this song is amazing. What is this song, right? And then I was listening to the lyrics, and it was telling us to heal under the stars with the sun and all of these things, right? It was the climax of the song where this girl with the most incredible voice is yelling these lyrics. And those lyrics right there that I was trying to show you, they say, let your pains turn to dust, let them burn in the fire, which there was a fire outside, to transmute. That's why the shaman built the fire, transmute energy. Let them burn in the fire and let new flowers blossom. When she was singing that chorus, I felt the pain in my shoulders start to dissipate and start to heal.
That's crazy,
and
man.
Then I felt my lungs open up. I was like, whoa, I can breathe again, because there was pain when I breathed that deep before.
Yeah.
And it just started to dissolve. And
wow.
And then the energy in the room, because they were just going off. She was just like singing and singing. And the energy and the love and the healing with what happened with the shaman's daughter, I just started to cry. I was so overwhelmed with emotion and love and healing that I started to cry. And I started to cry and laugh. And in that crying and in that laughing, it was squeezing the pain point that I'd been trying to pinpoint for 2 years. squeezing it, and I could feel the pain dissipate with every cry, like just
Wow.
working it out, working it out, working it out.
That's
And then
amazing.
so it's incredible. I recorded that song the next day, right? And then 2 days later, I took a mushroom journey, and I put that song that I recorded from them on repeat for like 4 hours, and I cried the entire time. And during those 4 hours, it completely eradicated the pain,
Wow.
and now the pain is gone.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah,
That's crazy. That's amazing.
a
Yeah.
poem written by Maria Sabina about healing.
That's nuts. Yeah, you'll have to try to send me that song or something, man. I'd love to hear that now that you talked about it. I gotta
Yeah,
hear it.
yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
you have to hear like the passion, because that's what it is. That's what it was. That's what got through to me, is the passion.
Yeah.
The passion behind their what they do. And then just the realization, I was thinking, my God, I went to like some of the best doctors in San Diego to try and heal this. They could do nothing. And this girl, just by living in her fullest expression, was able to hit the correct note and the vibration to enter my ears, to cause the emotion that started the cascade of physiological processes to squeeze that pain out. Like, she was the most qualified person in the world to heal this pain,
Yeah.
more than any doctor in the world.
Yeah. Humans are powerful, man. That's
It's
humans are
wild.
powerful. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
amazing, man. That's very cool. I
yeah.
bet that was a cool night, man. That was a
Oh,
pretty amazing night. Wow.
so magical, so
Band.
magical. Yeah, so magical, so magical.
Wow. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That
Holy
was one of
shit.
those experiences that bring the nervous system back to homeostasis.
Big time, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Heck yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Right on. Well, thanks for sharing that, man. I
yeah, yeah,
appreciate it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's been a good conversation, man. You're doing good shit, man. Doing
yeah,
good work in the world. Keep on that path. Keep doing
yeah,
what you're
man.
doing, man.
It's the
Keep
only
at it.
choice. It's the only
It's
choice.
it's the good fight, man.
Yeah,
The good
exactly,
fight. Yeah.
exactly.
Keep at it. And
Absolutely, man.
yeah, we'll do this again. I mean, we should do one of these
Definitely.
every few months, man. Just catch up. I know we'll always
Oh
have to
yeah,
talk, you know.
oh yeah, definitely. And every few
Heck yeah.
months, it just gets crazier and crazier and more wild. So
Yeah.
always
More
something to
shit.
catch up on.
Exactly. More shit to talk about.
Yeah.
So and yeah, keep at it, man. And
Cool,
enjoy
man.
yourself out there. I'll keep you updated on this. And yeah, we'll go from there. But we'll talk again
Sounds
soon,
good.
man.
All right, man. Great chat,
Cool.
man. Great catching up with you.
Yeah, I'm happy to have talked to you, man. Thank you for your time, bro. I appreciate it.
You too, man. You
Yep.
too.
All right. Take care, man.
Cool, man. Take care. Have a good night.
Yep. Bye.
Peace.
Peace.